So this is Jim McCann. I'm reporting to you from Lviv, Ukraine. We just got back from a long trip to the east. We've been collecting a lot of items to bring to soldiers, to bring to the poor and the needy, to bring medicines and food to the poor and those that cannot get out. There are many, many people in those areas that are still being bombed, and they just have no way of getting out. They're invalids, they have no place to go, they have no finances, they've lost everything. So I wanted to tell you just a little story of what we just went through for the past couple of days. We prepared, with the help of several partners, to get food, to get medicine, to get different items, mattresses, things, special things that the Army would need so that we could help them. We didn't have enough, of course, to help everybody, but our van was loaded. It was filled with 2 tons of material. And I have a testimony about that for when we return. So we left with that material. Our tires were so low, and we're driving all the way from the west all the way to the other side in the east. And we finally arrived. That night there were bombings. You could hear shells exploding. It wasn't so close to us, but we understood that we were not far from the front lines, and we were only allowed to go that far. They wouldn't even allow us to go further. So the next day we went to a church, and at the church we were, this picture behind me is a picture of the church we went to, and it was filled with believers and unbelievers, many unbelievers. And there was food passed out, items that people need to survive, and this is done 2 times every Saturday, and of course they have their Sunday services as well. But this is their regular outreach. And the church was packed. There was probably 800 people at least in this church, and in the midst of war, hope was being given out. In the midst of war, we were praising God together and worshiping and smiling and being thankful. I just really believe that when God sees that with His people who are honoring Him, even though He knows in their hearts they are hurting. They lost loved ones. One of their children was blown up. One of their children was killed or shot. Their mother, their father, their grandfather, their grandmother, somebody from their family has been killed. They lost their home. We walked through the streets. After we left this church, we went out with van loads of food that we brought in another truck in front of us, and we went to a certain area that had been bombed out. There were tanks that were next to houses. They purposely put them there. They stole the people's food. They went in there, they ran the people out, killing them, taking what was inside the homes, and you would see children's toys that are just laying there, and you know children were in there because they put these tanks and their armaments close to the houses, and they got bombed. So a lot of people died. And we're going through street after street of places that you just find it hard to imagine, how did people get through that? How did they come out with any sanity at all? Especially those that had loved ones that were killed in such manner. This was murder. This is not just war. This is Russia sending shells on a country that did not do anything to Russia to take something from them. They just sent missiles, huge missiles, tanks, and they murdered people. They did evil. And we in the Western world now are having an opportunity, the opportunity of 100 years since World War II, little less than 100 years, to do something that's right against evil. At that time, the people of the world stood up. Believers stood up. People went to war. I know a 99-year-old missionary that was in the Navy, and he's still doing missions work in Mexico, 99 years old. His wife is soon, not long ago, passed away. But he was on a ship, something happened, and he ended up getting blown up by something, and it messed up his stomach, and it stayed with him the rest of his life. But he ended up serving God longer than any missionary I know, or my wife knows. And that's Wayne Myers. And his name is worth mentioning because he's such an example of a life that was well lived. After war, he spent the rest of his years going on donkeys, bringing the gospel to the poor, starting orphanages, starting homes, churches, teaching people, ministering to people all over the world, him and his wife. They are legends in the missionary world. And so I'm saying something about them in honor of you, Wayne, and your wife, Martha, your beloved Martha. We give thanks that we got to know you. And because of all the help that you have given to us to help us do the work here at Joshua House, here in the center, where every day we're taking in people. So our trip was delayed because we had to get the center ready. We had to fix it all up, and we had construction workers just everywhere. The place was a mess. We got it ready. The moment, or even before it was ready, they started calling us and sending people. And we've been having people sent to us every single day. So we're out now driving in the east, and we're bringing people food and aid and medicines and different items so that they can be encouraged. And we told them this comes from people that love them that will never see them. Because really, love is the reason that you would reach out to a people you don't even know. America is not in this war. They don't have to see their children being killed or parents being assassinated and all the other atrocities that have happened. But they're helping like no other country. Many Western countries, many other countries that know to call evil, evil, and what's right, right. And they're calling this an evil war, that Russia was wrong, and they are wrong. I don't care what your political view is, Russia is wrong. If you saw the things that we saw when we were driving, we had to drive through a lot of different places, and you would just see buildings, huge buildings, blown up. Huge missiles had to have come and just exploded while people are in there. Cars were lit on fire and blown up. And people died in those cars, died in those vehicles. We went to some places that they look like junkyards. And there's cars that are stacked on one another, burnt out and melted. And on the inside of these cars were the remains of the people, of the children, of the mothers, the fathers, the grandmothers, the grandfathers, in those cars. It was a cemetery that we went to. And you see these things, and then even animals, they're limping, they got hurt. You hear them crying, and they're in cracks somewhere. And there's just so much. You're wanting to do something, and you can only do so much. So we went to all these different places. We went to a town called Bucha. Bucha is one of the towns, and Irpin, that they just tortured people. Some of the things that happened there, I don't even want to tell you on camera. They of course, tied people's hands behind their back. They raped children in front of their parents. They burnt people alive. They did every kind of evil you can imagine. And I'll tell you the reason that this is so evil and it's so wrong. Who would think up such ideas? What kind of a nation would have such an idea in their heart that they could attack another sovereign nation that's just living peacefully beside them and not doing anything to try to provoke them to war, and trying to increase and live a Western democratic style for their country. And then you have a country that's a superpower attacking you, blowing up your grain, blowing up your minerals, stealing them, then blockading the coasts so that there's over 22 million tons right now of grain and wheat and corn, wheat and oils that cannot get out because Russia's blocking, which is something that will cause a famine for millions of people in the very near future, unless the world stands up and tells Russia, you cannot do that. We will send everything we need, and you cannot do that. And we will not stand for it. And we will help Ukraine. And we will help the people there. The reason that my wife and I have been here for so long, we've been here 29 years. We've seen many terrible things. We've seen children abused. We've seen children that have been beaten to blood. We've seen children that have had a knife stuck through their knees. We've seen children that were treated as slaves, and we took care of them. We took them into our home, and we by the grace of God, healed them. We've had the mafia come and try to take things from us. We've had corrupt police and many different situations. But nothing has compared to what we are now seeing here. And I want to read something from the Word of God. It's from the book of Psalms, chapter 34. It says that God is close to the brokenhearted, and He saves such that are crushed in their souls. And these people have been crushed in their souls. We do what we do because we're followers of God. We're followers of Jesus Christ. In the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verses 1 and 2, it says, copy God, this is an amplified version, copy God or imitate God in everything you do. And let your life become a life of love, just like Jesus, who sacrificially gave his entire life so that we could live. So, great for us, we have salvation. We have something to look forward to. No matter what happens, we live or die, we're going to heaven, and it's going to be forever. But now God is telling us, follow Jesus. Do what he did. He went to the places that were difficult. He went to dark places. He went to people that were broken, and he healed them. He healed the brokenhearted. And that's why we're here, to heal them and to live a life of love. Love is the highest gift God has given to mankind. The love of God. Not the love of the world, not the love of just family member to family member or loving your friends, but I'm talking about loving the world. And right now the world is standing up and they are helping Ukraine. And the Ukrainians that we've been speaking to when we brought the food and when we went to these places where people were tortured and went to places where houses were bombed out, these people, they told us, you tell America, you tell people in the West, we are thankful. We're not trying to be parasites. We're not trying to just take everything from them. We are a thankful people for what they are doing. And we are grateful with all of our hearts. And please let them know that, how thankful we are. They're not just trying to be beggars and ask for more and more. Right now, every single day, hundreds of soldiers are dying. Hundreds of soldiers on the front lines. So we're going to be preparing. Now we will be working with another organization that is well known around the world, Samaritan's Purse, and they're going to help us. And we want to give thanks to Franklin Graham and all of his people for reaching out, because here's the miracle. We handed out tons of food and aid. And when we came back, our van was filled to the brim again with tons of aid that we can give out. And now we have the opportunity to continue to do this and even possibly fill up 18-wheelers and help people. But at the same time, we're spreading the gospel. We're getting Bibles out. We have now the opportunity to get many Bibles and hand them out to people and tell people about the good news of Jesus Christ. So, Pastor Carlos, a dear friend of ours, and you write us all the time and want to know more about what's going on. This is me talking to you heart to heart. This is what's going on. There's brokenness. There's things I see. When I came back yesterday, that I woke up to, and I was thinking about all the tragedy that took place, and it was just a hard day to deal with. To think about it, to think about all the people I couldn't help, all the people I couldn't get to. I could only get to so many. Even animals. there was just brokenness. But it's because of people like you and your church and what is it? Port Arthur. Thank you. Thank you for keeping on asking. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, LOI, James and Betty Robinson, who have been with us for years and helped us build these centers. And now they're being filled with people that are coming from those places that we brought all that food to, that we brought all that aid to. And now we have the opportunity to go again, and now we have even more contacts with different people and soldiers that we can get aid out to again. There